My name is Jerry. Perfect. Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, so I'm Jerry. I have 2 kids in the district. What am I looking forward to most this year? Um, I think I'm just looking forward to seeing exactly how my kids grow. Every year, it seems like they make some serious leaps and bounds from the beginning of the school year to the next. So yeah, go ahead and put, and also let us know also where your kids are going to school if you feel like sharing that. And we'll get started here in another minute or so. Oops.
Hey Jerry, while everyone is joining, can you share your screen so folks can see the prompt? Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, can everyone see my screen now? Let me get this over here so I can slideshow. Okay, thank you. All right. Nicole Nicole Gancitano is our managing director here at SF Parents. And did you see, I'm just gonna go ahead and start the program. And are we still waiting on, I didn't see if Dr. Sue, is everybody here that needs to be here?
I think we can get started.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so again, my name is Jerry Deanda. I'm a community organizer here at San Francisco Parent Coalition. I just want to go over some the agenda and some meeting norms. So we're doing our icebreaker. Please keep putting your school and what you're looking forward to most this year in the chat. I'm going to share a little bit about us and our organization and go over some meeting norms. And then I'm going to hand it over to our executive director, Meredith Dodson, to give some organizational updates. And then we're going to get into our program and speak with Dr. Sue and Teresa Ship from the district, as well as then I'll jump back in with some campaign updates, the things that we're working on here as an organization, and then we'll get into our discussion with Devin Krugman, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction at the district as well. All right, so with that, I'll kick it off. So who are we? I'm gonna this up here because there we go. Okay. So we are a strong community of San Francisco Unified School District families. We are a nonprofit organization starting in 2021. Our energy really came and our movement really evolved out of the COVID situation and getting kids back into classrooms once we had been on lockdown. We advocate, since then, we've been advocating for excellence and equity through parent power, right? We know that we are only as strong as the parents who make up this wonderful community that we have. And we're really focused on achieving wins for kids. And our mission is to make sure that we center the needs of children and youth in San Francisco public schools by bringing together a really diverse network of parents and caregivers to advocate for a thriving, equitable school system. And we really do, like, our vision is, we believe that we can make San Francisco one of the best places in the country for children and youth of all races, all socioeconomic backgrounds and abilities to grow up and get an excellent public education. And I will just say also, oh, hang on, sorry, Meredith, I didn't mean to jump ahead. I do want to go over now some of our meeting norms. So we will be turning, we are going to turn off the chat when we get further in so that we can just keep focused. We have a bunch of questions for our guests today, and we will be turning off chat just to keep focus on the questions that we have prepared from you, that we've gathered from our Facebook group and from emails and our face-to-face conversations, and also what we've been hearing at the beginning of the year and the start of the year, and then also some of the things that we're working on as an organization. So yeah, I just want to set that expectation and just give you the heads up on that. We're also recording the call. If you need translation, you can use the closed caption function in Zoom. So yeah, just make sure that we are all working together to have a really productive conversation today. Awesome. I think that's it for me right now. Meredith, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Dodson. I'm Executive Director and one of the founding parents of SF Parent Coalition. Just a real quick update from us on sort of what we're seeing as we're coming back to school. SF Parents, we have a couple of active campaigns still focused on literacy, math, and also the budget this year, which is continuation of our previous year's campaigns. And so we just wanted to keep you informed. It's a big part of what we do is bring that information to you on what we're seeing and hearing about what's happening at the district and breaking it down for you in slightly more bite-sized pieces than maybe you would get at like a Board of Education meeting. So really quickly before we welcome our guests and start to hear from them, some things to keep to know about. Staffing this year, actually, despite, this first bullet point that we're seeing some uneven and inequitable staffing levels across the district, especially in these areas of early ed, special ed, and core subjects like at high schools and middle schools. And so we've been hearing a lot from you all about that. We also are seeing that the district is doing better in staffing than previous years with reaching the target 92 percentage of fully staffed classrooms across schools. That doesn't feel good if your kid, let's just name, like if your kid is in a class that has a sub or rotating subs or in one of these areas where they are struggling more with staffing, we are keeping an eye on that, and we know it's an issue at the district right now. This is year 2 for the K-8 reading and writing curriculum, which we'll hear about from the district, as well as year 1 for the new math curriculum. SF Parents was involved in advocating for both of those changes, not for the specific curriculum, just to be clear, but it was time for the district to move on from previous curriculum. This is a standard practice across districts across the country to reevaluate, assess, is this working? Do we need, changes to new improved evidence-based materials? And the district decided yes. And we were part of the advocacy that pushed for the district to do that evaluation assessment and to replace the materials with newer evidence-based materials. We're seeing a changing strategy in Board of Ed governance, which we're hearing a lot from parents around concerns about process changes, things being redacted, unclear on what's happening. So just to let you know, we're following that. We're learning more. We've engaged with some outside consultants to help us understand what's normal and what's effective for boards of education, and what we should be looking for. So stay tuned. We have reached out to the Board of Education president, and he's eager to connect with families about this. And so we may, set that up if that's of interest all around. But it's something we're paying attention to and we'll keep you informed about. And then on the budget, so budget's still looking shaky. Our district did not meet the target for reductions in expenditures for this year, and the budget for this year is showing a growing deficit rather than a closing deficit. This is something we've been focused on because we want the district to stay out of state receivership or state takeover. We're under partial oversight by the state, but we want to move out of that partial oversight and definitely not into full oversight because it takes local control away from our district when that happens. So stay tuned on that budget front as well. All right, those are my quick updates. And now I think I have the honor of introducing our first 2 special guests to our conversation. So we'll have some superintendent updates from Dr. Maria Sue, our superintendent of our schools, as well as the brand new interim associate superintendent of education services, Teresa Ship. So I'd like to welcome them both to the conversation, and we're going to hear about 5 to 10 minutes from them before we start to hear about the curriculum and instruction updates and get some of your questions answered on that front from Devin Krugman, who's also here. Hi, Devin.
Great. Thank you so much, Meredith. Dr. Sue, Dr. Sue and Teresa, do you have slides? Do you have ability to share slides? Let me know what I can help you with to facilitate the conversation. Otherwise, I'll just leave us as we are and you can go ahead and take it away.
Perfect. Thank you. We do not have slides. Unfortunately, we are in transit between school and central office and all the things. So we just wanted to stop by, say hi to all of our families. Thank you, Meredith and Jerry, for inviting us. It's week 4, and so far it's going well. I've had the opportunity to just hear a little bit of the update, Meredith. Thank you so much for acknowledging just how hard our staff have been working all summer long. Principals, administrators have, really stepped up in a big way to make sure that our schools were ready to receive our students. And of course, our teachers were also very engaged in trainings and preparations for the first start of school. And because of all that, we have, pretty much had a really nice, I'm knocking on a wooden table here, a pretty okay start of school. I know, as Meredith said, that hearing that 95% of teacher vacancies filled sounds great, but doesn't sound great if you're part of the 3%. And so we are fully aware of that. Our HR team are working round the clock to make sure that we continue to hire. Hiring is a literally 365 day process, because when a person is ready to join us, we have to be ready to accept them. And we have to always be ready. We also have to always be ready to share with our staff or potential candidates how wonderful SFUSD is and how it's a great place to work. So we're actively doing that and making sure that we close the 3% remaining classrooms throughout our district. And then the other thing that we're constantly working on is the budget, right? So we're constantly working on the budget, making sure that we are budgeting within our means and holding ourselves accountable to what we've planned. And so just to say, we're super proud that we were able to deliver a balanced budget according to the fiscal stabilization plan that the board approved last year. And that meant that we cut $114 million from our budget. That's significant. And I know that a lot of our families are perhaps seeing some of that reduction in perhaps not that many staff people on school sites, or perhaps a delay in getting a response from us, or other programs that have been eliminated because we had to make those really tough decisions. But in those tough decisions, we centered on ensuring that our students' experience was going to be core, meaning that we centered our budget around having a teacher in every classroom, making sure that we had the resources to do that. And so we're really proud that we were able to do that. And as Meredith stated, we still need to do more, which was always part of the plan. It was part of the fiscal stabilization plan that we had our year 1 cuts, and then we were going to have a year 2 cut. And what has happened over literally passing the plan last year, and then of course this year, is that we're seeing that there are continued growth and increase in expenditures in certain parts of the district. And that's really difficult because I know that we went through a very painful process last year to make those really difficult decisions. For those who tuned into the board meeting, you would have heard that there is a slight increase, and unfortunately a continued increase in our special education contribution side of the house. So we know that we have done a significant reduction on our general ed side of the house, as well as our central office side. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is the increased growth in expenditures on our spec side. And we're closely monitoring it. We're really excited that we did bring on a deputy superintendent of business services in starting August 1st. So Chris Mount Benitez did join the district, and he has already rolled up his sleeves and started digging into our budget. He's worked over the last several weeks with staff to make sure that we address the audit findings from the last several years, and have now worked very closely with CDE, our California Department of Education advisors, as well as staff to mitigate and to address all of those audit findings, which of course, the sooner we clear those findings, the closer we're moving towards positive certification. And that is constantly what we're trying to do. The budget team right now, or the business services team right now, is working on closing out our or rectifying our unaudited actuals. And so once again, SFUSD is both a school district and a county office of ed. So the school district has closed out our unaudited actuals, and now the county office of ed is going to go in and scrutinize, which essentially means we're looking at our own budgets. And we will continue to look at our own budgets until the end of the month, and then we'll wrap that the variance up between actuals and unaudited actuals, and then present to the board at the October 10th meeting, I believe. It's the first meeting in October, what the unaudited actuals look like. And essentially, it's just every single month as we kind of marshal through this school year, we get clearer and clearer information around the budget, right? So next month, you're going to get the unaudited actuals. The following month, you're going to get an update to the fiscal stabilization plan. In December, we'll get the update on first interim, which is our first major checkup of the budget and how we are living within our means, and then so on and so forth. So that's where the budget is right now. But I just want to be clear: we all did a really amazing job in delivering that balanced budget. That CDE said that we did a huge lift for it. But it is true, we have to continue on this very difficult diet that we're on, and I know that we can do it because we've demonstrated that we can do hard things. The other thing that I'm really excited to talk about, as many of you have heard, when we were talking about hiring and going out to search for the Deputy Superintendent of Business Services, we were also talking about finding and going through the search for a Deputy Superintendent of Education Services, because we need to, of course, center our work around our students' experience and our students' academic outcomes. We did do that search. We issued that search. We did that search a couple of months ago, and unfortunately, we just didn't find a good fit for the district. And so what I'm going to do is go back out and now do another national search. We're really fortunate. We do have philanthropic dollars that's going to allow us to now bring on a search firm to do this. So that's really great. So now we have actual money to bring on a search firm that will allow us to do the national search. In the meantime, because as you all know, these searches take a long time, right? And quite frankly, I'm going to say this publicly. I've been saying this. Honestly, anyone that we really want, we will have to steal from a district, right? So just to be like clear, I'm all about stealing right now. So that's that's maybe not money wise. I don't want to get into trouble, but having good people, I think we need to be in that mindset. But in the meantime, we are really grateful to have our interim associate soup, Teresa Ship, joining us. Teresa, she can introduce herself, but I've known Teresa for well over 15 years. She has been at all levels within our district, from teacher to principal to central office leader, has worked with many leaders throughout the district as well as the city. So she's got really deep ties with our city partners as well. And so I'm just really excited that Teresa said yes to this opportunity. Although it's interim, she's all about SFUSD, and and this is why she is here with us.
Oh, thank you,
Teresa.
Dr. Sue.
Yeah.
Thank you. I am so excited to join Dr. Sue and her team, and obviously partner with all of you, really making sure that we're having the outcomes we want for all of our students, positive impacts across the board. As Dr. Sue mentioned, I've been a teacher, I've been a teacher coach, I've been the dean of students, I've been the vice principal, the principal, and in central office, most recently as an assistant superintendent outside of SFUSD. I am so excited to be here and to partner from all of you, work with Devin on the accountability measures, making sure that we're really hitting everything that we need to, our targeted growths, and making sure that students are feeling the positive impacts across the board. What you were sharing in the beginning resonates with me, and definitely we need to dive deep and make sure that we are really keeping our promises to our parents and to our families, and most importantly to our students. So I'm so excited to be here, and it's really nice to meet you all.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. Thank you both so much for being here and taking time out of your very busy days, as we know you are very busy, but to give those important updates and address like the things that we're all hearing and want to acknowledge. And yeah, so I hope you have a really great rest of your day, and good luck getting to your next your next location. But yes, thank you, Meredith and Nicole. Anything else, or just good? Awesome. Thank you both so much. Have a great
Thank you,
day.
everyone. Look
Thanks,
forward to
Devin.
talking soon. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you again. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get back to the slides. And then I'd like to go over right now is just some of the work that we're doing and kind of lead into why we wanted to have Devin here today chatting with us. So we have a few core campaigns at our organization. And please, can you see my screen? Yes, I'm sharing. Okay. And so the one that we're going to focus on today is our SF Kids Can't Wait campaign. So really this campaign and the work that we do is to improve outcomes in literacy and math across all of SFUSD. And we want to also invest and support our teachers in high quality instruction. And then like last year, we launched these read to lead workshops at several schools in the district. And those are all about like giving parents helpful tools to support literacy at home and to also build their leadership when they think about helping advocate for their kids, like and help them build their power as a parent to advocate for their kids and themselves and their families, and then also at a school level, and then like the changes that we want to see at a district level, right, which are outlined here, improving those literacy and math outcomes. And so as part of the Kids Can't Wait campaign, we have these updated demands that we are really keeping an eye on and focusing on this school year. And so the first one is helping struggling students right away. So we want to make sure that every student that is struggling, is identified as being behind in reading or math, receives small group or intensive support during the school day using evidence-based interventions. And then the next thing we want to see from the district is more communication and understanding and transparency around how letting families know how their kids are actually doing, right? So we would love to see that at every elementary school, the STAR, SBAC, and report card data are all reviewed at the fall and spring conferences, and helping parents understand exactly what that means and how it pertains specifically to their child, and so that they know how to better, again, advocate for their kids and get them what they need. And then the third thing that we're focusing on is implementing high quality curriculum with integrity. So that by the end of this school year, we want to see that all K-8 classrooms are using the district's new reading and math curriculum, and that we'd love to see a spring audit, right? Like we want the district to report back to us and confirm that consistent use across the schools. I know that our Devin and her team have done really well. The feedback that we've gotten is that they've done really well, or they did really well last year getting the new ELA curriculum out and in use. So we're hoping for the same for the math curriculum that's rolling out this year. And then our last demand is to support teachers all year, not just once, right? So that all TK-8 teachers and paraprofessionals receive ongoing paid training and coaching on the new curriculum, and that they have access to their professional development funds. And so these are the things that we're focusing on as an organization to help kids in our district with our literacy and math goals. And this is why we thought to bring Devin in to chat with us more about this and kind of talk through some of the things that she's thinking about. And with that, I'll just turn it over to Devin and Nicole to, and once again, like I said, we did capture a lot of your questions and Nicole Gangitano, our managing director, again, she's going to be facilitating this Q&A portion with Devin. So I will turn it over to you both. Thank you. And thank you so much for being here, Devin. Again, it's nice to see you.
Yeah, of course, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, welcome, Devin. And I feel free, like, if you want to just like get started with like some of your, I know we have kind of chatted a little bit about some sharing of like your key priorities, and then we can kind of go over additional Q&A that comes up. And for those who are on the call, you can chat our hosts. And again, like as calls get larger, it's a great thing. We're seeing more parents coming out, joining them. And I think as we also have gotten feedback from other parents and facilitators, the constant like question thread can be really hard to manage and follow. So I will be helping kind of follow and manage the Q&A portion as chats come through to host. So if something does come up that Devin shares, feel free to put it in there and we'll kind of summarize those as we go through the presentation. So again, welcome, Devin.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really happy to be here. I've really been excited over the last couple of years of getting to join SF Parents for a series of whether it's sort of like these open house or other community engagement. So again, thank you so much for having me. I'm going to talk through specifically the priorities for curriculum and instruction for us as a division, and what our priorities are for this year, specifically in relationship to the district's goals and guardrails. The ones that we hold most tightly are goal 1 around 3rd grade literacy, goal 2 around 8th grade math, goal 3 around college and career readiness, and then guardrail 3, which is about high quality curriculum and instruction. We are, I will say, really lucky to have strong partnership with separate divisions like LEAD, who are the folks who supervise schools, special education, or research planning and assessment, who prepares all of the reporting that you find in Parent View and does all the assessment work with students and families. So I'll share a bit about our priorities and try to name where some of the topics listed might fall within those other divisions within the district, and like how best to follow up with folks for some of those questions. So if we can actually go back to the slide, that was a great place to start. I was going to talk through each of those. Thanks. I love
No
it.
problem. Just give me 1 sec.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'll start with the curriculum implementation part. And so, yes, as named before, we are this school year in year 2 of our K-8 language and literacy implementation, and we're in year 1 of K-8 math. And one of the things I'll just say is, like I always say, language and literacy, because the curriculum that was adopted does include English language arts, Spanish language arts, integrated ELD, and designated ELD. And when we talk about language arts, it does include foundational skills, reading and writing. And so we began this summer, both like closing out year 1 and then launching year 2 of both at the same time. We had a series of really successful summer institutes with teachers. We had, just for the math launch institutes across June and August, I think we had like over 60% of educators, which is like kind of unheard of for folks signing up to give a day or 2 or more of summer training. We also had specific institutes just for the math launch, for our Spanish language pathways who were moving to a 50-50 model, for K-2 teachers around a foundational skills institute, as well as training for all of our administrators. So we were excited for a really strong launch to the summer. As is the thing that tends to keep me up at night, all of the materials landed and were unpacked. And based on our early data, are actively in use in classrooms, which is sort of the first checkpoint that we look for at the start of the school year with a new implementation, and even into year 2 with language and literacy. As part of our implementation plan, we have a couple of different systems. So one system is the professional learning system, which is for teachers, instructional coaches, and administrators that goes across K-8. So with administrators, we have monthly training for them on instructional leadership, both in language and literacy and math, as 3 separate cohorts. So we have that for our K-8 leaders, our leaders of K-5s, and then our leaders of middle schools, just based on the unique nature of those, as well as early ed. And those focus on what to look for in classrooms, instructional practices they should see in place with the adopted materials, and how to provide feedback to teachers and instructional leadership in the ways they work with their broader team of assistant principals, coaches, and others. In terms of our instructional coach training, we have an instructional coach network at the elementary level where there is 1 coach at every elementary school. They meet bi-monthly for training around curriculum implementation, supporting teacher collaboration structures, facilitating PD for their whole staff. So we provide that training and support, again, for them on a monthly basis. And then for teachers, we have an ongoing series of engagements that are a little bit different in structure based on grade band. At the middle school level, we actually pull our teachers centrally for release days. And we go into a deep dive on instructional practice and curriculum, looking at student assessment data. At the elementary level, because of the size of that educator pool, we both rely on the coaches, administrators, but then also provide extended hour opportunities after school and on weekends for things like institutes or specific Skillshare around targeted instructional practice, such as interpreting assessment data. And in addition to all of that professional learning, we have a fairly robust internal and external audit and data tracking system. So one is that we have a series of deliverables for every school every month that are associated with the implementation of strategies for Goal 1 and Goal 2. And so we track completion of those deliverables. They're pretty wide range, but the goal is for us to be able to determine where we see implementation falling off track. And so the folks who supervise schools, our colleagues in LEAD, monitor that data, and therefore it helps them know when to respond or provide additional support to schools, as they are the supervisors of implementation in school sites. And then in addition to that internal tracking, which also includes a classroom observation system, we're continuing to contract with TNTP for the external auditing, which happens with the learning walks. We actually did that last year and publicly reported the data as part of the board reports. But there is triennially a set of learning walks where they go to a demographically and geographically representative sampling of schools and classrooms, and they score their classroom observations on a set of indicators and then report out to us. The first set for this year, I was just working on scheduling, is in 2 weeks. So we do the first one right at the jump just to get a really clear picture of how we're launching the year, to make sure materials are in use and practices are happening, and so that we know if there's any changes we need to make to our implementation plan. So that is sort of the first piece around the implementation with integrity. I named a little bit the piece around the teacher professional development. Anecdotally, what I believe is also in reference here is that teachers within the district have what's called Prop G hours, which are additional professional learning hours of their choosing that they can attend and then submit for additional compensation to HR. So, you know, our offering when teachers attend is a wide range. Some teachers like their Prop G hours, some teachers like extended hours. So if they run out of Prop G, they can use extended hours. But the goal is to have ongoing engagement of professional learning opportunities. And then the one other piece that tends to be nice about the Prop G is sometimes there's some targeted like conference work or otherwise that might be related to a teacher's individual interest that gets supported. So I talked a little bit about curriculum around PD. One of the things I will say is that I know both my colleagues in LEAD who supervise schools and then my colleagues in research, planning, and assessment who work on student data and report cards both have this number 2 item in mind, definitely. I will for sure communicate back to them this particular item as they follow up with schools around planning for conferences and the ways in which they share data across those 2 divisions. And then the other piece I can speak to is this number 1 around helping students right away, which is what we refer to as our multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS. And so MTSS is the system by which students receive additional support or intervention based on identified need. And that can be in the area of academics. So it could be reading support, it could be in the area of behavior, it could be in the area of attendance. So in the area of academics, MTSS systems and structures are, as might be evident by multi-tiered, but a multi-division effort. So in curriculum and instruction, we provide MTSS guidance. So our guidance is all of the kind of nuts and bolts of how you would run a system. So what materials do you use? How frequently should somebody deliver the intervention to students? How long should they do it? What kinds of data should they collect to monitor a student's progress to decide what to do next? I think I said how frequently. So we provide all of the guidance for MTSS systems. And then as part of the supervision of schools, my colleagues in LEAD track that schools have MTSS plans and systems up and running. And the district does not actually currently use a separate system for student data that's specific to MTSS. So schools, as they run their MTSS plan, might be using formative assessment, so classroom assessments or activities or coursework. They also will integrate things like the reading difficulties screener as we launch it, or the STAR assessment. And in general, they're using multiple data points in order to build an MTSS plan for students. So that's sort of the big overview for those 4, and I just talked kind of a lot. So I will pause there in case there's questions, follow up, like anything I can kind of get in the weeds on a little bit more. And also I'll just say, somebody please tell me if I use acronyms. I've been trying so hard to like say the thing instead of just saying the acronym. Okay, I'll stop.
Thanks, Devin. Thank you also for sharing these in relation to demands. I'll start with demand 1, which is again, helping students struggle right away. Can you talk, we've gotten a lot of questions about tier 2 intervention. So in like very parent simple language, what is a tier 2 intervention? And then how is the district approaching this strategy with some of the shifts in funding that schools have had with no RTIF positions, et cetera?
Yep, definitely. I wish I had my little MTSS triangle, but okay. So tier 1 is what we think of as what all kids get, the curriculum and instruction that all kids get every day. Tier 2 would be the next bar of needing some additional support. We would then have tier 3, which would be intensified support, and then potentially considering referral for special education. And tier 2 is an intervention that San Francisco has had kind of a funny history with. So historically, the district had a position called an RTIF. I'm blanking on it's an acronym. It's a reading intervention specialist. So it's a staff member who would do reading intervention. One of the things that is kind of interesting about that is in a lot of cases, schools positioned the RTIF as the only person doing tier 2, which is actually somewhat unusual. In a lot of large districts, tier 2 intervention can actually, when it comes to academics or things like reading instruction, is often done by the classroom teacher during small group instruction. And so one of the things that we tried to look at, and this was probably like 2 or 3 years ago, was our multi-tiered system of support as we prepared for an adoption. And I think one of the things we saw overwhelmingly was that our RTIF network was covering for a deficit in tier 1. So there's kind of this saying where it's like you can't tier 2 your way out of a tier 1 problem. And so the district had created an over-reliance on tiered intervention when the root issue was actually low quality tier 1 curriculum and instruction. And so that we call it, we don't call it, nationally people call it flipping the triangle. Again, if I had my visual, this would be more clear. But so the idea is if you see a disproportionate number of students who are receiving tier 2 or tier 3 intervention, then that tells you you have a problem with tier 1, which was the case in San Francisco. So we spent a lot of time trying to solidify our tier 1 so that students weren't inappropriately being placed into tiered intervention. So that's one. The second piece is that as we've had the loss of the RTIF network, we have included or worked to do, this last year was the first time this ever happened, but oversight over classroom schedules to ensure that all teachers had the appropriate block of small group instruction built into their schedules so that they actually could deliver tier 2. They have the resources as part of, for example, like the HMH Interreading Adoption has a tiered intervention set of resources. There's intervention materials and lessons that go with each tier 1 lesson. And then the other piece is really focusing on trying to understand whether students were being inappropriately referred to tiered intervention. What I would say is, it's still a huge loss for a school not to have a reading intervention specialist. What I would say is that loss tends to show up a lot with tier 3, which is the more intensive intervention needed. And so at the school level, and again, I don't want to speak too much for my partners in LEAD, but I think at the school level, they've done some creative problem solving around that based on the design of their staffing model. So there are some schools who have done like a universal tiered intervention block of time. So it's the same block of time for all kids in the school or all classrooms. And then students move around. So they reorganize. For some kids, it might be, tier 1. For some kids, it's the time for they get tier 2 from another teacher. So they've tried to reorganize in those ways, which is very similar to the ways some schools run their designated ELD program. So I don't want to minimize the loss whatsoever, but it has been something that we've been trying to do some creative problem solving around without having the financial resources for the staffing that we wish we did.
All right. So let's stay on curriculum for a moment. We got this question actually a few times, both at the elementary school level and at the middle school level. So I think for many of us, we are used to reading full text in elementary school classrooms, especially in our middle school classrooms. And what we're hearing from parents is concern that kids are only reading excerpts of books. And we would love for you to address just this issue that is coming up, and also what leeway or direction do teachers have to modify or adapt curriculum choices?
Yeah, I can speak to that. There are some differences between K-5 and 6-8, so I'll talk about them separately. 6-8, the adopted curriculum for ELA is EL Education, which does use whole books. We've spent like millions of dollars shipping novels to schools. So I would say if your student is only reading excerpts, please flag for the teacher or the administrator. They should have a whole book. And one thing I would say about that is I do know like in some cases, teachers get really worried about sending like novels and books home with kids based on like the rate of refurbishment and materials returning. So, I do think it would take a little bit of investigation, but I am concerned about that because that shouldn't be the case. What I will say is that those units are designed around a text set. And so there's one anchor text, like one of the main ones for 6th grade is Long Walk to Water. There's Patient Zero. So those units have a full book. And then there are a series of supplemental texts that also go with that to build knowledge on the topic of that text, which is one of the core instructional shifts for language and literacy. So there might be like additional excerpts and news articles and things like that that would support that text, but they should still be like, this is the book I'm reading in class. So for K-5, there is a little bit of a difference. So there's sort of two main text sets there. There is the core student book that is an anthology, which does include excerpts. And so in that case, this is something that we like hotly debated, and ultimately the former superintendent chose, was, based on the other components of the program and designated ELD and availability in Spanish and the foundational skills. The core student book does include excerpts as part of an anthology. However, there are a series of additional texts that go with it that are full books. At the lower grades, those look like read alouds, or decodable text sets. At the upper grades, those look like independent reading books. So there is a mix of both that students should be interacting with. And we just completed some purchasing of additional decodable text sets. So students should not ever be in a position where they're only interacting with excerpts, would be my sort of like baseline on that.
Thank you. So I think we, definitely are hearing that it is like kids, parents are feeling like kids don't have access to those texts. So we'll follow up on again, some good next steps from your perspective on how we can support parents and finding and getting some additional answers there. For many elementary school parents who had back to school night last week, a lot of we heard from our teachers, there's no math homework. What does this mean? And what we also heard, which we know can happen, is that schools are approaching how to support additional practice with math in different ways. And even, third grade teachers might be adapting how to do math homework differently than their fifth grade teachers at the same class. And so we also know that the math pilot was shorter than our middle school pilot around math as well. And would just love to hear a little bit about kind of your thoughts on the math program, what you're hearing so far and what you've heard from teachers and training. But then also if you could address the homework piece, as that's like a really strong interaction to what parents are experiencing at home.
Yeah, totally. So I'll start by saying the math pilot mirrored the same structure as the language and literacy pilot. So in both cases, middle school was a full year and elementary was 2 programs each for a unit, roughly the same length units. The piece I will say about homework is this is kind of a funny thing where it's like sometimes when something changes, you don't realize what had been, before. Is the district actually has not had an elementary homework policy. So there was not a policy that existed that said this is, the ways in which math homework is supposed to look. But it was true that schools had, because it had been so long since we had done a math adoption, had sort of fallen into their individual ways of how they decided to run homework. So again, it was kind of this like, oh, okay. The recommendation that we have given is that there are a lot of different components of Imagine Learning Illustrative Math that can be used as homework if that is the policy and practice of the school. There are some schools that have a no homework policy for elementary school, which is not that unusual. Other schools are used to the packet that comes backpacked home on Monday and then goes back on Friday. So Imagine Learning has a couple different ways you can run homework. They have additional practice problem sets that kids can bring home. For students who have tech access in their Clever digital backpack, they can use Imagine Math, which is additional fluency practice. So we've given guidance to teachers and coaches around the various components of the program they can use for homework. But because the district does not have a formal elementary homework policy, it's a recommendation and not a directive.
Thank you. Let's see. I'm looking at time and want to make sure I'm prioritizing a couple of the questions that got chat to me and theme those in. I think some of the other questions like attendance fall into maybe some of our lead partners that we can ask around strategies they're using to support teachers. And maybe the other thing you can talk about is like there's a difference, generally in terms of like fidelity and integrity. And our focus is like on integrity of the curriculum, which means that we know there will be adoptions or changes that teachers may make. Like how much can a teacher change what's happening in their classroom across kind of all levels? And then, or we'll focus on K-8. And then also, if you have time to address some of the work that you're all doing to standardize our high school level curriculum with more kind of rigor and evidence base as well.
Yep. So I think in the supplemental question, I'll point back to the superintendent's recent admin reg around supplemental instructional materials. And teachers definitely have it within their purview to supplement, but that supplementing should not go to the point of supplanting the adopted core curriculum. So what we might see is, adding additional units or activities. Something that comes up pretty regularly in middle school is with ELAs, all the units end with performance assessments. And so often teachers will have like additional, activities or community engagement that they build in. They might build in additional supplemental text. But we should not be in a place where a teacher is skipping an entire unit of instruction or removing the anchor text of a unit and replacing it with a different book. So that process is part of the supervisory relationship that exists between teachers and their school administrators, so assistant principal or principal. And then I can talk about high school. So I would say, I am more than ready to begin the adoption process in high school. We actually had started that work and then financially had to put it on pause because we lost the funding for the work as part of the reductions in budget. And so our hope is that this is work that we can, find either additional philanthropic funding or other funding sources to be able to take back up, similar to what was the case with K-8. I mean, it's been 15, 20 years, I think, since a high school curriculum adoption. And they are very much due. So I would absolutely love us to have the funding available to take up that work. In the interim, we have done a couple of things. So one is that we have monthly engagements and training with all of the high school department chairs and leads, which is organized by content area. So like all the math department chairs. So we do training with them on instructional practice associated with the standards. They have a learning walk tool that they use with their school leadership team. We do, training support with them. So like things like unit templates, lesson templates. So we do work with the department chairs in the interim while we do not have newly adopted curriculum.
Thanks, Devin. And then I would love to just close on what are kind of your hopes and dreams for this year with SFUSD? We kind of started that as like our practice and asking parents what they were looking forward to. So what are you looking forward to in your kind of new role and oversight?
I am desperate for kids to practice their newly acquired foundational skills in decodable text. That is every single day for at least 30 minutes. And I will say that a big part of that is fluency work for kids. Kids need to be fluent readers in order to engage in the reading comprehension components of their reading. And so, in addition to just like the reading practice, one of my favorite like things that I always try to say is, if your kid has a decodable text at home that's aligned to the foundational skills they're learning in class, have them read it 3 times. And it helps them build fluency, and fluency builds comprehension. So that's my hope and dream. I have a lot more for other grade levels and content areas, but I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Devin, so much for joining. And for everyone who has joined, who is on the call or who might watch this video recording later, I also want to just share that we will continue to share resources that you can find about curriculum instruction. We'll drop some of those at the end, but I really want to just appreciate you for your time today and joining us. And then thank you. Jerry, let's transition into kind of our closeout. We're going to share out a little bit about some of the amazing work that our parent solvers team is doing. But I'm worried that we will then go over time and not give them enough to really highlight some of their work. So again, thanks, Devin. Let me unpin you. Let's see, Jerry, if you could go back to sharing your screen and we'll go to our closeout.
Okay, hang on one sec. Let me see if I can do it this way. Did try to share again, but let's see. Oh, there we go. Now it's working. Okay.
Next slide.
Hey.
All right, so here's what's next. You heard, and I just want to highlight that having the superintendent, the head of curriculum instruction jump in because they see the value in the work that you all have been doing as parents over the last 5 years, and some of you even longer in terms of your time in the district. And so we are always looking for parents to join up on one of our active campaigns, volunteer with our work and move this ahead. So you can email hello. Jerry is the real person who answers all of those behind the scenes. And if you just have other questions about, wow, I'm really interested in hearing more, how did Decodables come to be? And why is that Devin's hopes and dreams for the year? We're happy to like dig in a little bit more there. We have heard a lot from parents across the community. They want more information on math. And so we are actually launching a 3-part series workshop around math, which will begin on October 16th. There'll be webinars in the evening. And we're really excited to talk a little bit about why did SFUSD make some of these math changes and strategies and ways that parents can engage and support their children at home with math. And you'll see all of these links are going to start dropping in just a moment. Giovanna's going to add them in. If you're not in the online family forum or in our WhatsApp group, those are 2 places to connect with other parents who can help answer questions, etc. And then SF Parents is really proud to be a partner with the city and county in their R415 initiative, which is a site in which parents can go and find resources and information about services that are provided by nonprofit organizations and the city across the board. So thank you all for joining. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Again, stay in touch for our next couple of meetings and read our newsletters. You'll find lots of great tips there. So have a great rest of your day. And we actually, it looks like I'm going to drop these links. Giovanna can't because I was so on top of changing that let me get those updated for everyone, as we would love to make sure that you get those. If not, they'll also go in a follow-up to everyone too. All right, so the first one I just dropped is the link to learn more information about math. There is information about our 415. Our Facebook group. And our WhatsApp. Thanks, everyone. We'll leave those up there and have a great rest of your day. Jerry, don't leave the meeting
I'm
open.
not touching anything. Yeah, no, I tried to help you by putting some links in the chat, but I was like, oh, I can't chat either.
Sorry, everyone. Thanks again for joining. Have a great rest of your day.